Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal, and I'm the founder of VintageBoothPro.com. I'm here with John with Rhynes Wholesale today. And if you haven't met John, be sure to head over to our community on Facebook. He is very active, and we share a lot of details about purchasing wholesale. And John has been helping us with booth layout, merchandising tips, and things like that because it's coming from the experts. And so we are getting expert level advice here. And today we're doing something a little bit different. John posted not too long ago in the group about if you want to improve your booth layout, submit a picture and we'll go over it. So that's what we're doing today. So, John, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm like she said, I'm John. I'm one of the managers here at Rhynes. We've been a wholesale supplier for small businesses all over the country for the last 60 years. And I'd love to take this time to just offer some suggestions or advice on how to improve your merchandising, hopefully help increase sales, and let's all be successful in this. So I'm very
Absolutely.
excited to get started.
Yeah, and I was talking to John about how, so I've had a booth for a little over 3 years, I think, and every antique store I've been in, every vendor mall I've been in, no one booth is the same. We're all different people. We all have different styles, and so we are all totally different. It may seem like some of the tips we give you are the same because it is coming from years and years of experience from John, and he's pulling from huge retailers and just retail experience. So, while every booth is different, a lot of the tips may seem similar because it is just the wisdom of people that have been there, done that. So, we're just going to jump into it and start from the beginning. So, one of the first people that submitted is called Artisan Grove Studios, and they had several pictures I'm going to share here today. And John, what do you think?
Yeah, so kind of like what you were hitting on before, some of these tips are going to sound a little repetitive, but that's because what we're going to be using here is this merchandising guide that Ryan's has put together. And even if everybody's booth is different and all the styles are different, there are core principles that still are the same no matter where you are, no matter what state you're in, what kind of business you're in. Just good merchandising tips that can be applied anywhere. So with this first one, Artisan Grove, this one happens to be a good amount of Rhine's merchandise here, a lot of this wood decor, the displays. So what I wanted to hit on first with this is just to go through, we see that there's a large selection of seasonal items. Everything's grouped together by fall, Christmas, and then we have a more woodsy kind of display. So right off the bat, I love that there are clear segments and themes. Everything is grouped together by type, which gives you a very clear understanding of what they're trying to merchandise. It's grouped together by color. There are through lines throughout. So it's very easy on the eyes, very easy to browse through. Um, a couple things that I think would be great opportunities for some growth here. Um, between the fall and the Christmas sections, there's a lot of green kind of as an accent color throughout. What I would love to see is that same green incorporated in the more woodsy section. It pairs very well with that wood. It's very natural, and then you just have a very clear, consistent, intentional look through each of the three segments. You can add, greenery, leaves, really anything to give it that more like foresty kind of look. I think that would pair really well with that. Um, for me, there's a very small thing, but I would love to see that bear in the canoe over top of the fish on that second display. It just makes it look a little bit more like that bear is actually over the water and actually paddling. So just a very small little tweak, I think, kind of builds a little bit more story into the display. Um, and then what I would love to see too is potentially moving in that more outdoorsy display, just swapping the main types of items that are on each one, because you see that there's that window behind it that's bringing a lot of natural light.
Mhm.
But in that display, there's a lot of blocks with text on it. And maybe it's just this picture, but with all of that natural light coming behind it, it could wash out those words and make it harder to for customers to see when they're walking by. And what you want to do is just make it as easy as possible for people to identify what you're trying to display from a distance, and then it'll just bring them into it. So by swapping those, you're still going to have the silhouettes of the fish, of the larger pieces, right in front of that light, and that's not going to affect the look of those items. But if you have the text in front of the more blank wall, but there's not all this light washing out from behind it, it's going to make that text a lot easier to read. They're going to be able to identify and be drawn into that a lot more easily.
Yeah, great point. And I just want to say too that some of the strengths, it looks like they really know their buyers well, and they've catered their sourcing to those buyers, and they're using an excellent job of vertical space. So nothing on the floor, everything is at eye level. So keep building on that. So I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll move on to our next one, which is Gaston Pickers. So tell me about Gaston Pickers.
So some of the things that I really like about this booth, the displays themselves don't seem to be overwhelming. All the merchandise is very clearly visible. Um, I love the light blue as an accent color that it seems like they've been very intentional about with this booth. I think that pairs really well with the brown, the background. It pairs well color wise, but it still pops a lot for you to be drawn to it.
Hmm.
And overall, all of the items are very intentionally chosen to have a very clear and consistent theme throughout. So obviously, they have an idea of what they want in the back of their mind when they're sourcing products, and it definitely shows in the displays here. Um, some
Yeah,
of
absolutely. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, oh
No.
go ahead.
Oh, no, no, no. I was just going to say the same thing that their vibe is very clear as soon as you walk into their booth. So, really good consistency. So,
Yeah. So some opportunities I see here, especially with that brown vertical house display. All of those product tags that are hanging down seem to be blocking a lot of the visibility of those products. So I would almost suggest finding either a complete replacement for your tags, or two different versions, one for larger items, like the tags you're already using, and maybe a smaller version of that tag, just a little something to stick onto the item so that way the display is not affected. You can clearly see all the merchandise, and you don't just see a wall of tags hanging there. Um, Something else that I saw, there it looks like there's a sign in the back walls for a Christmas in July sale. So something to keep in mind for anybody that wants to have a sale, when you have a flyer like this, you need to be thinking about visual hierarchy, because the biggest thing needs to be what's going to draw somebody in to look at more of that sign. And right now, the biggest thing is just that picture of Santa's hat and cloak. Um, so what you really want to what you want to make the most visible part of that is the sale and the 10% off everything. That's what's going to draw people into your booth. Really, you could probably even minimize the picture. You could take it out, but as long as the most eye-catching part of it is what customers see as value, that's what's going to draw your people in. Because I wouldn't even know that it's a sale just by walking through. And the fact that it's a Christmas in July really isn't going to be the thing that makes the difference in someone buying. The Give Santa break, I I see that that's a little tagline there, and I think that's fun. But it's definitely a little bit more overpowering than the fact that everything is 10% off, which is the big draw.
cool. Yeah, that's a great point. Did not think about that one. Just from my end, like I said, very cohesive theme. Maybe find a focal point to help draw more people in, and that could be with that signage.
Mhm.
And maybe use some risers for layering because everything was kind of on the same level. And if you could, make it more eye-catching by having different levels, I think would be good as well.
Yeah, and kind of thinking about things that are eye-catching, and that back wall display, there's it looks like there's clear glass on the bottom shelf, but because a lot of the light is blocked in that, it's really hard to tell what that is. So even if you add just some like little stick-on lights, battery-powered lights to draw more attention to what's in that display, that's going to be your focal point, like you were talking about, Crystal, and that's going to be what draws people into your booth, draws attention to it. Just be very intentional about the lighting, about what you want people to focus on first, and then once they're in, they'll see the rest of the merchandise, and I think it looks great.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, you want to move on to Marissa's Antiques and More?
Let's do it. So what I love about this, the color groupings of all the items look very intentional. You can tell that they've put a lot of thought into that. The tags on each of the items are very clear and easy to read without being overwhelming in the displays. So people don't have to hunt those down. They don't have to think about it, which is great. And I think that they're using large items on the lower shelves in a great way. So it's filling up the space, but it's not there's not too much that's having to draw people's eyes downwards. I think the items that are most important are at eye level for the most part. Um, so definitely a lot of great things there. Uh, the biggest thing that I think could make a huge difference in this is that uranium glass that's on the bottom display. This is the one I think lower display where there's a huge missed opportunity because that, especially nowadays, seems to be a very high demand item. A lot of people are looking for uranium glass, and it's the most interesting thing. It's what's glowing under that black light. There's a lot of interest in that. So by either raising that up maybe to the center, the upper shelf in that center display there, by adding that light, you're creating a focal point where everything on that back wall is all aiming towards the center. And I think by having that uranium glass in that center part of the display, your eye is naturally going to go towards that, and it's going to really elevate the booth. Um, the the other side of that, where there's also different colored lighting, it looks like that kind of cycles through. I would try and draw more attention to that as well. Just maybe make that whole center bookshelf, that whole center display just lit, different kinds of glass, really draw a lot of attention to that because that's what's going to bring people in. And once they're there, they're much more likely to see everything else that's inside.
Right. Yep, absolutely. One thing they are doing really well is using that vertical space and using the shelving. And they're grouping by colors, which is great and awesome. The shelves are very dark. So if
Mhm.
you could do like even like a pill and stick wallpaper on the back to lighten it up, or like John was saying earlier, some of those even like battery powered puck lights, put them on top and just bring some more lighting in, I think would be extremely helpful as well.
Mhm.
And I see you have a great name, Marissa's, but it says booth 222. So I don't know if the store, makes you have that sign. It's a beautiful sign, but include your name as well. It's a beautiful name. So I think that would be fun for branding and, customer recognition as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there does seem to be maybe an opportunity for a little bit more merchandising. There's that the back of that very front cabinet next to all that brown and green glass. There's just a blank wall there. So once someone's
Yeah.
inside, I think maybe that's an opportunity for signage, for different announcements, potentially hanging items. But there's definitely an opportunity to add a few more things right there to give some interest once someone is inside the booth.
Yep, absolutely. And just, like we've said before, use some risers and get the different levels going because once you just stack out the things
Mhm.
on the shelves, it's all the same. So, we're curious people and our eyes go where we want. We can make our customers' eyes go where we want them. So use that
Mhm.
height to bring people in a little bit more. So, but I think it's a beautiful booth. And another thing, all the glass, you are definitely going to be attracting all those glass collectors in. So you know your buyer well.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, who do we have next here? Let me see. How about the Screen Porch Mercantile?
Yeah, so one of the things that we talk about in our merchandising guide is the rule of three, and it's the psychological display technique where our brain tends to think of things in groups of three as a little bit more complete. And along the wall displays, you've got a lot of groups of two. And I think by adding one other thing to each of those little groups, maybe that's a slightly different size, it's really going to complement that well. The accent color of that gold, yellow pairs really well with all three background colors. So I'd love to see that a little bit more prominent, especially in that right side of the display with the green. Don't be afraid to add some more of that bronze, that gold color. It's really going to tie all three sections of the booth together really well.
Yeah. More lighting, of course.
Hmm.
We can all use more lighting. Like my store even has very bright overhead lights, but I have dark areas. So any way you can include light or make the shelves lighter, like I've said before, with just doing something on the back shelving to make it easier to see what's hiding back there.
Hmm.
Um, and price tag visibility. And John was talking about this earlier. And just as a vintage booth owner, this is difficult. Like, what is the happy medium of the price tag being too big and then
Hmm.
hiding it, and people have to search all over for it. So that is something we can talk about in a future video. What is the perfect size for a price tag? Because like I'm getting older, I'm getting blinder, and if I have to look and look for a price tag, I'm probably just going to pass on the item. So how can you just make it easy for people? And that's the whole thing. It has to be simple.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I do see just in looking through these pictures, you were talking about the visibility of the tags. I and you do have the screen porch mercantile on some of these visible tags. What you
Okay.
could do is create little groupings of items with
Hmm.
only one tag for the group. So it minimizes the use of tags, still has your branding throughout the booth, but it doesn't have to be you don't have to put in all the little tiny items if you're trying to potentially upsell someone on a
True.
large collection.
Right. So that's a good idea to improve sales too, is that bundle pricing,
Mhm.
rather than selling a lot of little small things, put it all together and make more money.
Absolutely. Let's do the Janet Lyn Gallagher.
Okay. Oh yeah, this is a beautiful one.
Yeah, and what I love about the lighting and that fabric along the ceiling, as well as the rug on the bottom, everything gives you a strong sense of direction into the back of the booth.
Good point.
So
Yep.
visually, you're just drawn into it. You've got a great focal point on the back wall with that framed flower, with the lights. Everything is very intentional to the back, so it's just naturally going to lead people inwards there. One thing that I think we could change really easily to make it a little bit more inviting is just take out that little table at the front. I think that almost gives it the sense that there's something stopping you from coming fully
Hmm.
in, and especially if somebody's wanting to take a large piece out, it's something you're going to have to think about.
Right.
There's potentially some other groups we're going to talk about that have the same issue as well, but just make this your decompression zone. It's also in that
Right.
merchandising guide
Hmm.
where it's this inviting, warm space where you want to draw people in, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to fill all the little space with something else as a little display.
Hmm.
Those books, the Southern Living books, I think you could incorporate into the shelving on the wall, and it would almost make it a little bit more visually accessible. So I don't know that that little table's adding more than it would be adding more value than if we just took it out and maybe incorporated those somewhere else.
Right. Good point.
One other thing that I think is really strong about this is there's that color principle of 60-30-10, where you want to have 60% of your space be a more neutral color,
Hmm.
30% be that primary color, and 10% be more of an accent color. And I think with the 60% more white neutral background, there's that 30% brown and gold that's incorporated through all the displays, and then
Hmm.
10% of that sage green. I think it's balanced really well visually throughout the booth. I think you could almost incorporate more of that green with the front displays, either through pillows or blankets or some kind of fabric to really tie in the ceiling with the rest of the displays. It's really just, I think, going to elevate that even more. Um, with those two displays, the white shelving on either side, I think there's a way to make each group of items a little bit more cohesive. Where maybe if the right side or one side is all gifts, like those mystery boxes,
Yeah.
the Tervis cups on the bottom,
Hmm.
and then the opposite side could be the more kitchenette, Southern living, more homey kind of merchandise. So it's a very clear distinction rather than mixing a little bit of each thing on either side. You give a
Sure.
much stronger theme between each display.
If you have three walls, make them all for separate buyers. So I think that's a great idea. And too, you've talked about the color, but also the texture.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying bringing in some of those things. She's done an awesome job. And if you dig into the picture of covering some of those fluorescent lights with fabric, and
Hmm.
that's a fun idea. I don't see that a whole lot. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it softens
That's
it up. It makes it
mhm.
not so harsh. Yeah, you're right. I really
Right,
like that.
right. Gonna run through one more. I think we have t enough time.
Let's do um let's do the Tipsy Olive.
Okay, I love that name. Okay, so they have some clothing. I love that. Some furniture. This is a big booth.
Yeah, so what I love about this, there's a great use of vertical space, kind of like what you've talked about with other booths, with the furniture, with the hanging lights. Everything feels like it feels like they filled the space very well. That tone is also very inviting with the way that the lights work, just with the way everything is set up. I would definitely go in and check that out. It feels like a
Yeah.
very well formed space. With those windows back behind it, I think we run into that same issue of that strong natural light that's going to potentially wash out some of the displays. And if you look, there's that the darkest display, those lockers are right in between those two windows.
Hmm.
So it really just looks like everything is washed out in shadow. What I would love to see is either move that and potentially put a lighter display there, or use puck lights, something a little bit more intentional with lighting that space, so you overcome that natural light that's washing out from behind.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that I'm glad you brought that up because you really don't think about it because you want all the natural light you can, but then a lot of times we do block the natural light. So really simple quick fix would be to rearrange some of that furniture and yeah, use that natural light that is a huge gift. Most booth vendors would love to have windows in their booths
Oh, absolutely.
nearby. Yeah.
And one thing that I think could really boost this display is there's that front section with all of the seating
Mhm.
and the little tables. That honestly, that feels like a very large section in the middle of this space. What I would love to see is either, if you really need to have that in the center, take out those two chairs on the right and then just recenter it so it's not as there's not so much space being taken up by that front. Um, or if you can find a way to just push those out to the front of the entrance, but on either side, so the walkway is then centered rather than split on either side.
Mhm.
This way, you can funnel people in through the center, gives them a very clear sense of direction. But right now, if I was just walking by that quickly, I wouldn't be able to quickly identify where the entrance is. There's not a clear directive or flow into the booth or out of the booth.
And that's a really fun thing that we as booth owners don't think about is that you can create your own flow in your booth. We all kind of have the same square or rectangle. Make it flow however you want. And I do agree that it kind of blocks the flow because it is such a big booth and you want people to go further in. And from my experience, you're going to find a bored husband sitting here, somebody taking a phone call. you know, they're going to use your chairs. So make a little space for people to go in.
Hmm. Yeah, and if you want to use that seating inside the booth, do that because
Yep.
once they're in, they're more likely to engage. But if you
Yeah.
stop them at the beginning, they're less likely to go in and engage with your booth.
Right. Right. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's a great point. So I think that is getting close to all the time that we have. I appreciate all these tips, and I always learn something when I talk to you, John. So I appreciate it. And yeah, if you have not connected with John in our Facebook group, be sure to do so. I post daily what I sold, if anything, and John posts once a week about some great merchandising and wholesaling tips for the vintage booth community. So thanks so much, John, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, thank you, Crystal.
Thanks.